How long did this take you to read? I feel like you flew through this pretty well.
Oh my god, yeah. And so yeah, this is the biggest book,
It's a thick boy.
the biggest book I've ever read, and it's the biggest book in this series. I was expecting it to, slow me down, but like it was so good that I ended up flying through. I read like 500 pages in probably 3 days, 4 days, like the last 500 pages.
Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Welcome back, Jonny Trappe from the Rib. Tonight, is it tonight? Yeah, it's like 7 p.m. Tonight, I am here by candlelight. Once again with Jonny Trappe. He just finished Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix. Is that number 6? 5?
Year 5.
Number 5, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. As he just said, he flew through this, longest book he's ever read. Congratulations, man. That's a big moment for you as a human being. That's an important milestone. So light these bad boys and let's get rocking. I am excited for this because you're excited. Your energy is giving me energy.
Hype.
All right, Jonny Trappe. J Trappe. So you started reading this book a little bit ago. You texted me one night, like right when you first started, and you were like, oh my God, this is the craziest beginning to the book, like any of the books, which I thought couldn't be more true. So the beginning of the book opens up with Harry and Dudley at like a playground or something back home. Everything's pretty normal. And then like the world gets a little eerie and like black and cold and all that good stuff. While you were reading this, what did you think was happening? Did you think Voldemort was coming? Have you now by this point known how when Dementors are coming into a situation, how like the world turns black?
Yeah.
Or
this is my favorite beginning to any Harry Potter book so far. And it's probably, it's because of this, and I know like the symptoms now of Dementors closing in. So like it was just like that clashing of his two worlds. Like, why are they in his neighborhood? Near Privet Drive. It was crazy.
It's super intense. So you knew that it was the Dementors were coming. Were you shocked when they started going after Dudley also? Because up until, majority of the story, besides maybe some stories about Voldemort, magic and muggles don't mix a whole lot. Mm-hmm. Or they do, but you don't see it a lot. And this was a very, very obvious. The Dementors straight up attacked Dudley.
I wasn't really surprised because they're kind of like they kind of come off as like this just primitive, like one goal kind of creature where like I don't think they really care or know the difference between a muggle and a wizard.
It's just they see a person, they just go after them.
They both have happiness, they both have souls.
What were your thoughts on how they got there, why they were there? Initial thoughts? Like, because Dementors don't leave Azkaban unless they're instructed to. So, what did you think was going on?
Obvious, seemingly obvious Voldemort involvement.
Okay, so you immediately jumped to that.
I thought they were or the Death Eaters were trying to get him when he's least expecting it, at home when not much goes down.
So the Dementors attacked, and then you have Miss Fig, who's a neighbor who's been kind of looking after him. And Harry makes his way to number 12 Grimmauld Place in London, which we learn is the site of the Order of the Phoenix. And we also learn that it is the House of Black. How is Grimmauld Place hidden from Muggle view?
I know it's kind of like sandwiched in between two other buildings.
That's a good way of putting it.
It opens up. I forget what they say or do to open it.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's Mad-Eye Moody. Mad-Eye does magic in a different way. He has like that big staff that he can just do stuff whenever. So the Order of the Phoenix. So mm, pretty early on, the like title significance of the book jumps in Order of the Phoenix, which is of course led by Albus Dumbledore, the OG Dumbledore, and it's, I guess, the opposite of the Death Eaters, right? It's the good side against the bad side. You also learn that the Order was established and working on Voldemort's first push for power. So the Order was around. Harry's parents were in it. Sirius was in it. Wormtail was even in it. There's a ton of people. The Longbottoms were in it. A ton of people were in it from the beginning, and then Voldemort leaves, goes out of power. The Order kind of breaks down, and now the Order's coming back. This time, it's a lot harder for them to gather people to kind of fight.
Right.
And why is that? Why is it harder for them to get people to join the Order this time?
Well, a lot of people, especially in the Ministry, don't believe that Voldemort is back. So
Not only do they don't believe, they don't want to believe.
They don't want to, yeah.
The Daily Prophet slamming Harry, slamming Dumbledore, which is so crazy, right? Like the two people that everybody should trust at this point, getting slammed by the Daily Prophet. Like you just mentioned, Cornelius Fudge. I don't know. So when you're learning about this whole thing and the Ministry of Magic being against Harry and the Dumbledore and not thinking Voldemort's back, it always cites Cornelius Fudge. And you're not sure if he is afraid to admit it. You're not sure if he's being coerced to kind of fight the truth. You're not really sure what's going on. All you know is he's spewing incorrect facts because we know that Voldemort's back because he killed Cedric Diggory. So that's a extremely difficult situation Harry, Dumbledore, and the rest of the Order are in. Now, Harry is sent to the Ministry of Magic on trial. He is on trial for using his Patronus against the Dementors. He is still an underage wizard. How was reading that whole courtroom scene for you? Because that's a really different area of the magical world that you see. Like a judge, there's a jury, witnesses.
Yeah, a lot of government in this book.
That's absolutely.
It was cool. I mean, and it made so much sense. Like that Harry just like goes into a shell and he's terrified because number one, it's intimidating when you're in a courtroom full of.
Yeah, he's still relatively young.
He knows they're strict, and he knows the threat of getting expelled is on the line. So yeah, that whole thing was nerve-wracking.
I think he's actually at this point already expelled, right? Don't they expel him like immediately? And this trial is more of an appeal process.
I don't know. I think they delayed it because at first he gets a letter saying, "Oh, we're about to come, snap your wand in half, you're done, and by the way, you're expelled." And then he gets another letter immediately from Dumbledore, and he's like, "Just stay calm, stay where you are.
I got this.
We'll handle it." So I think the trial was just kind of figure out, are you done, or we're gonna let you go. So.
And even a step further, they change the location and the time of the trial too, hoping that Dumbledore doesn't get it. And Dumbledore is always one step ahead of everybody, so he makes it there. Brings in Miss Fig as a witness. Charges are cleared, but there's still that whole. I think Dumbledore says something to Fudge like, "Come to your senses. The evidence is obvious. Voldemort's back." Fudge hates it. You meet a new character in the courtroom, Dolores Umbridge. How many, in all of your years of reading, watching TV, watching movies, where does she rank in your most hated characters of all time?
Dude, oh my God. Probably number one, dude. It's not even exaggerating. Like, she pissed me off so much.
Dude, everything. Every time she opens her mouth, it's like, oh.
God, she's the worst. She's the worst.
She's the absolute worst.
It's not even just like towards Harry. She's just generally shitty to everybody.
She's evil.
Power hungry and trying to manipulate everything. I'm like, oh my God.
She's completely brainwashed by the Ministry and Fudge. So Dolores Umbridge, you find out, hate her at the trial, just from the few things she says, find out that she is the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. So again, every year there's a new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Dolores Umbridge is the new one. She makes a big stink at the first dinner. I think she says a speech or something. The Sorting Hat says something interesting.
Mhm.
It cautions the students against becoming too eternally divided. Did you pick up on that as something that was important? Is that something you kind of glossed over? The Sorting Hat has done some pretty incredible things the past couple of books. So
Yeah, I know. I knew that it was significant because every other time we hear the hat sing its song,
right,
it's just very clear cut and dry. Welcome New Year's. We're about to get sorted. Let's get on with it.
we're about to get
This
sorted.
one was like, but then this song was like almost 3 pages long. Like he's just rapping. And
Yeah,
it's
off the top.
very coming off of like a warning, like a dire warning to everyone. So yeah, I knew it was significant. I knew it's interesting that I want to know how the hat catches those vibes and then is able to deliver that message before everyone else knows what it's
Right,
about. So
right.
it's
Yeah. Is there
interesting.
somebody behind there? Is it just some magical entity in itself?
Right. Interesting.
Very interesting. And so he gets back to school, finally gets back to school, the place, his favorite place, the only place he feels safe and like comfortable. And a majority of the school has been reading the paper, and their parents have been reading the paper, including some of his homies like Seamus and Dean. And they don't think Harry's telling the truth. They don't think Dumbledore's telling the truth. A lot of them siding with the Daily Prophet. A lot of them don't believe in Voldemort being here. I think Seamus tells Harry that he almost wasn't allowed to come back to school.
Mm-hmm.
So Harry is not very well liked, even though he's saved everybody countless times. Fifth year student. So Harry's and Hermione and Ron and all the rest of the gang are in their 5th year at Hogwarts, which requires them to take the OWLs, the Ordinary Wizarding Level Examinations, which is pretty much like our SATs, ACTs.
Yeah.
So what is the thing that gets in their way of being prepared for the OWLs?
I mean, there's a lot of that.
Well, one person in particular, freaking Umbridge, Dolores, who's been made the High Inquisitor of Hogwarts by Fudge, which is
Okay.
some
In
bullshit.
her specific subject, yeah,
Oh,
she
correct. So
kind
in
of like
Defense Against the Dark Arts, yeah.
she wanted to teach her own way and not go by how like not let them practice Defense Against the Dark Arts. And they're like, well, how are we supposed to learn that if we're just going to read every day?
Yeah, it's a really interesting start to this book because Miniature Magic is obviously peddling the Daily Prophet, which is giving the news to all the wizarding world. They're now inserted themselves into Hogwarts, which is the educational system for the younger witches
Yeah,
and wizards.
very
So
intrusive.
yes,
And then it just escalates, and then that made me just hate her more. Like, oh, now, by the way, now I'm the High Inquisitor, and by the way,
she
now
eventually
I'm
becomes headmaster,
yeah,
right?
now I'm headmaster. It's like, oh my god, they're
It
really
is
taking over.
it's real crazy. So the craziest part is, and you don't really know this at the time. Well, you kind of do. So the Ministry of Magic is taking all this power and pushing all this information on people, and they're wrong the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing they're wrong about is a really, really bad thing to be wrong about. Right? The most evil, powerful wizard is coming back to power, and they're pretty much telling everybody and steering them in the wrong direction, which is insane. This is an insane situation. So in response to the Defenses Against the Dark Arts learning, where they're just pretty much reading books and doing nothing, Harry, Ron, and Hermione kind of start up their own little class called Dumbledore's Army, which is the coolest name, right? Such a cool name. Dumbledore's Army. Pretty much Harry, who isn't a terrific spell, like not a great wizard in terms of like knowledge, but he's the only one who's had a lot of experience with fighting and dueling and everything. So he teaches all these people pretty much what Defense Against the Dark Arts is supposed to teach: attacking spells, defensive spells.
I love that this whole DA thing. That was like one of my favorite parts of this book. Just like
Oh yeah,
them taking the initiative, doing it on themselves, risk and everything involved. To see the kids like really work hard and care, and like they want to learn because they know how important it is, and they don't want that to get taken away from them. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a potential life-saving situation that they are being denied by stupid Umbridge. So Harry gets in trouble with Umbridge a bunch of times throughout this book. Explain the punishment that she delivers to Harry. I mustn't tell
Oh
lies.
yeah, um, that was nuts. Very disturbing.
Very
Yeah,
disturbing.
she makes him write on his hand. Um, I must not tell lies over and over and over and over again until his hand is bleeding and basically it's carved into his
Shines
skin.
through. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's straight up torture.
yeah.
It's a medieval. I think McGonagall says something about like her medieval punishment. That's insane. And even more disturbing, you know that this is all coming from the Ministry. I mean, the Ministry of Magic probably didn't tell her to do that, but she represents the government. She also kicks Harry off the Gryffindor Quidditch team, which in return, one of the best parts of the entire book, Fred and George, when they pretty much drop out of school
Yeah.
in protest.
You go out with a bang,
They
literally.
go out with a literal bang. I think it's during, is it during the OWL test? Are they taking the OWL test?
No, I don't think it's quite there yet.
Whatever. So they flying around, letting off like
Maybe. I don't know.
all their firework, like all their
Yeah,
little
and then
knickknacks, and
they very cleverly like charmed it so that if you try to get rid of it, it just multiplies by 10. And
yeah,
has no idea. She's pissed off. She's freaking out. So they get the best of her. I love that. And then like, I love that like the rest of the staff is they're flustered, but they kind of are like laughing at the same time.
they let it go. They
McGonagall
could have helped more.
cracking up. I love when like Flitwick when the twins do another prank with the swamp that disrupts everything. The swamp. Do you remember that part? And Flitwick like cleans it up, but he leaves a little section roped off as to like honor them because it was such good and clever magic. I just love that kind of stuff. It was cool.
Yeah, it's Fred and George are those. I mean, we all had those kids that we went to school with. They were the troublemakers that the teachers hated, but also kind of loved because they were really entertaining. But it's a great send off for Fred and George. Leave school to open up their shop with all the money that Harry gave them from the Triwizard Tournament, which is also really, really cool. So let's dive into Harry's starting to get these dreams. He's getting these crazy dreams every night. We've seen him dreaming before about stuff going on in Voldemort's life, but these are a lot more present in actually what Voldemort's doing. He keeps having this recurring dream about the corridor in the Ministry of Magic, right? And he sees himself, or at least he feels himself like walking down the corridor. He always wakes up before he opens the door, so he doesn't really know what it is. At that point, it's not even really a bad thing. It's just kind of weird. And then we get to kind of what cranks up the whole book, the whole scene where Harry is dreaming of being a snake and attacking Ron's, or not Ron's dad, but Mr. Weasley. So take me through what are you, I mean, what are you even thinking when you're reading this? I mean, do you think Harry's doing it? Do you think it's a dream? Do you think it's real?
Oh man. No, I didn't. I obviously don't think he was doing it, but it was the first time that we see him. He's dreaming like through the eyes
Right.
of the killer instead of just witnessing stuff from afar. So it was disturbing. It just sucked to see like him start to think like, oh my god, am I like actually a evil person? Like,
right. Am I doing this?
He's like questioning himself. Am I really thinking about doing this, or am I just being influenced? What was crazy is that when he's like panicking, he's like, I know Mr. Weasley is hurt. We need to go find him. And everyone's like, no, you're just dreaming. You're just dreaming. But he's right. And it was like actually happening. So the connection was real. It's not just a dream.
Thank God he said something, because it turns out that it was real. I love how he goes to McGonagall. McGonagall's the coolest.
Yeah.
And then Dumbledore's response is immediately Dumbledore's like, all right, this is real. Like, this definitely happened. And he goes to his pictures in the frame and he's like, go tell blah, blah, blah back at the House of Black. Like, go check on this portrait and all this stuff. That's one of my favorite things about the whole Harry Potter world is Dumbledore's ability to use all these pictures and all these people in the frames to like go communicate. But that is a wild scene. Harry physically attacking Arthur Weasley as a snake. So this leads to occlumency. How do you say this word?
I said occlumency.
Occlumency. That's got to be right. Occlumency.
Occlumency, yeah.
Occlumency. OCCLUMENCY. This is a new. So every time we do this show, we always bring up like what are some new things that we see from the magic world. This is obviously a very new thing. Trelawney is the professor who does all the spiritual orb reading tea leaves, all this crazy stuff. She never really mentions this. This is something that Dumbledore has Snape in. So Snape's working with Harry through this whole occlumency. God, I can't say it right now. Whatever. So this is a fun situation because I love when Harry and Snape are forced together to do something. I think that's a lot of fun because they both hate each other, but they both kind of don't hate each other, but they definitely do kind of hate each other. So Snape's trying to teach him how to do this. So what is the whole reasoning behind Dumbledore wanting Snape to teach Harry this?
Well, we find out that clemency is kind of the study of being able to block your mind off because they now think/know that Voldemort and Harry are very connected mentally, and they're worried that the same way Harry can see to and through Voldemort, they're worried that Voldemort's going to be able to see to and through Harry, which would not be good, especially for the order and everything going on behind closed doors on the good side. So they're trying to teach him to close his mind off and not allow himself to be influenced anymore.
And obviously he pretty much can't. And I don't blame him. The dude's, if there's anybody who shouldn't be able to turn their mind off, it's freaking Harry Potter.
He kind of refuses.
Past 5 years, something crazy has happened to him.
He's like, but why is that so bad? Like, I just helped save Arthur Weasley. If I was not seeing that dream, you'd probably be dead right now.
Right, and Harry uses it.
They both have a point, but
exactly. Harry's has an unfortunate situation because he kind of has this obsession with Voldemort for, again, obvious reasons. How could he not? But Dumbledore is obviously like, it's clear that Voldemort wants to kill you. If he can see what you're doing and communicate with you through your dreams, it's not a good thing. Like, we need to fix that. So Snape and Harry try to do that. It doesn't really work. It's not really that whole successful. You also find out, and we've seen this connection before, but anytime Voldemort has some sort of like spark and huge emotion, Harry feels it in his scar. So these two are really, really almost, their DNAs are almost entwined.
Yeah, they're definitely bonded.
Umbridge eventually stumbles upon Dumbledore's army with the help of Filch and her little kind of security, right, which is Draco and all the Slytherins. This is a great scene, a great situation. So Cornelius Fudge and the Ministry of Magic are under the assumption that Dumbledore wants to take over the Ministry, which is absurd. Dumbledore just wants to pretty much fight Voldemort, and they think he's using Voldemort to kind of gain a following. To their defense, having a group of young wizards called Dumbledore's Army isn't probably the best look, but I love how Dumbledore takes full credit for it. I love how Cornelius Fudge is like, all right, you're going to Azkaban. And everybody's kind of like, oh, really? And then Dumbledore's like, all right, I'm out. Pieces out on him. But in doing that, he gives up Hogwarts. He's no longer the headmaster, right? He's pretty much gone. He gives up hanging around Harry at all times. So it's probably a pretty tough situation. Dumbledore takes everything in stride, but that's not the easiest thing for him to do. So the kind of climax of the story begins when Harry has yet another vision of Voldemort. He finally makes his way through that Ministry of Magic's hallway. All right, he gets inside and he finds that Voldemort is torturing Sirius. Did you think reading this that this was also happening? If it was happening with Arthur Weasley and it was real, did you think that this was also happening? Or
Yeah.
did you kind of think that Hermione, Dumbledore, Snape, a lot of people were telling Harry that he could use this whole connection against him?
Um, I did think it was real. Once, because once one thing had worked before, and then two, Sirius. We know that Sirius was kind of going crazy, being stuck behind and not being able to help. And he was locked
Yeah,
in the
he's still
house.
a wanted man. Yeah.
But he always wanted to get out and go do something and be a part of the fight. So I was like, oh, he took it upon himself to go out, and now he's in trouble. Like they told him. Like I thought this was legit.
Yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily have any reason to believe that it's not real. Harry sneaks into Umbridge's office, bumps through fire over to the House of Black. Also, by the way, Creature, what are your thoughts on Creature? You love House Elves. Do you love him as well?
Um, I don't know. I understand like the house elves, how they can like be pissy, and especially him because he lost all his family. Like he hasn't really no one left, but he has to stay there because there is still Black left.
Yeah.
So he's just a mess. I don't know. I didn't care for him too much or sympathize.
Yeah, kind of shitty. But when Harry goes back to Grimmauld Place, Creature tells him that Sirius is at the Ministry. So Harry's immediately like, all right, well, we got to go save him. This is right after Dumbledore kind of caught the Dumbledore's army. So Harry and Hermione convince her that Dumbledore has this like weapon, I think, hidden in the Forbidden Forest, which is hilarious. So they bring her over there, and what does it turn out to be?
They lead her directly to the centaurs.
Is Hagrid's like
Hagrid's
little
giant is there, yeah.
yeah, so that's
Kind of
initially who they
happened.
bring her to, right?
Well, no, they're trying, yes, but then the centaurs kind
The
of
centaurs
interrupt.
like pretty much immediately show up, yeah,
Immediately interrupt, and
and she
what are you
insults them a
doing
couple
here?
too
What are you
many
doing here?
times.
And then the giant shows up and just starts beating everyone's ass.
Yeah, that's a great scene. Umbridge, I mean that she had that coming.
And then they're able to sneak away as that's going down.
Yeah, so Harry and Hermione climb the Thestrals. We'll talk about the Thestrals in a little bit. The little spirit horses type things.
Mm-hmm.
Fly away. So we got a squad coming up to the Ministry of Magic. We got Harry, Ron, Hermione, Ginny, Luna, and Neville. Hermione's a great wizard or a great witch. The rest of them, Ginny is actually a good witch. She's pretty solid. Luna's just
Yeah,
weird.
definitely
Neville kind of
improved.
sucks. Harry, Ron kind of suck. So not the best squad. I wouldn't say the A team is coming, especially as we figure out they battle a whole team of Death Eaters, which are full-grown badass wizards and witches. So let's talk about that whole scene a little bit. So we get into the Ministry of Magic. We sneak in. We get into the room. What the fuck is it called?
The Department of Mysteries.
Is it the Department of Mysteries?
Yeah.
All right.
It just has like a shitload of doors.
Yeah. We get into the Department of Mysteries. Obviously, Sirius is not there. All right. Voldemort is not there either. Clearly a trap. And then they stumble upon a prophecy with Harry's name on it. Or I don't even know if they know it's a prophecy at that point. But there's like a globe. I think maybe Neville is like, hey, Harry, this one has your name on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as Harry grabs it, the Death Eaters all come. Why do they have to wait for Harry to retrieve the prophecy?
That is because only the people that the prophecy is made about or made to can access it.
So, what is your interpretation of the prophecy? Let's talk about this before we get on to the action.
So the prophecy, what is the exact quote? It's
pretty long.
Yeah, it is pretty long. But the gist of it was the last line where it's like, neither can exist while the other one lives. Basically, straight up saying one of you is going to have to kill the other. Um, Harry kind of knew that in a sense already this whole time.
Right.
I kind of, we all kind of know that.
Yeah, and
Special bond, like they're both.
I think Trelawney mentioned something extremely similar also before this.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you said, either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. A pretty dark damn prophecy. They also mention stuff about being born as the seventh month dies. And the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal. So you see Harry has the mark on him.
Well, the whole thing of it could have been Neville because they were born at the same time.
Okay, so this is before we started recording this. I asked you. This is what I meant. I didn't know if. Okay, so yes, Neville also could have been the chosen one, right? And you see Bellatrix is the one who tortured the crap out of Neville's parents.
Yeah, I want to talk about Neville. I want to talk about Neville for a bit. So I love Neville in this book. He finally
he comes into his own a little bit.
Finally comes into his own. So they started the DA. He wants to join. He does. He's typical Neville. He's clumsy. He's not doing well.
Everything fails.
I think before the second or third DA meeting is when the mass breakout of Azkaban happens. And that's where the switch happens for Neville, because now he knows that Bellatrix,
she's out.
The woman who ruined his childhood life and ruined his parents, is out, and he really buckles down and starts doing awesome at the DA. And he's actually good now, and Harry notices it. Everybody is noticing it. I love that whole story, and it's just so it's so heavy and deep. That's the scene with him at the hospital. And then you see the parents and how they are and how he has to live without them, but with them at the same time.
Right.
Super special. When his mom gives him a gum wrapper, she has no idea what's going on, but she gives him a gum wrapper and he just saves it in his pocket. I was like, wow, that's so special.
Very touching. It's great. You're absolutely right. This is the first time. I mean, a lot of the story is based off of him and his parents. But it is really cool to see. Not only do you learn more about him and his story and his family, but you see, while you're learning that, you see him kind of develop into, I guess you could say, a legitimate wizard. Right. And then, spoilers aside, as you can probably tell, he keeps going in the right direction. He's trending upward. So let's go with the prophecy. We got Neville. Neville could have also been the one in the prophecy, which would have been pretty crazy. That's a pretty shocking, one of the more shocking things that you learn. So the fight dukes out. A bunch of Death Eaters. Lucius Malfoy's there fighting against these kids. Harry is the prophecy. So what is your problem with this whole scene? You said you had a problem with the fact that Voldemort came.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that sucked was that Neville, his nose gets broken, so he's unable to perform any spells and fight. I was like, damn, that kind of sucks, because he did work his ass off.
Yeah. He did it. He wanted to be here. Yeah.
Yeah. He might get his time later, but the second thing was, so I was confused because the whole point was the Death Eaters were sent there by Voldemort to steal this prophecy and bring it back to him. Why? Because obviously the Dark Lord cannot just waltz into the Ministry of Magic anytime he wants. So he says. I feel like he could have snuck in there.
Probably.
So he sends his people there because he can't do it himself. But then shows up anyway when the fight is going down. So I was just I was confused. So I'm like, why?
Well, there could be a couple reasons for this. Number one, it's obvious why he didn't want to show up in the first place, because even if the Death Eaters do attack, there still is that small glimpse of, well, there's still no complete evidence that Voldemort's back, right? Mm-hmm. So that's an important thing from him. Obviously, the prophecy is important. I think it mostly comes down to there's this whole idea, and this is mentioned throughout the book, of Voldemort wants something that he didn't have last time. And that's this whole prophecy thing. So he really gets a full understanding of his whole situation relating to Harry. I think ultimately, I mean, he's just a reckless person, right? He's just an evil, reckless, powerful person. He probably never needed to come. I mean, the prophecy gets destroyed regardless.
Right.
So I think it mostly comes down to that. I know anytime Harry's involved in a situation, I feel like it's hard for him to stay away from because he's so full of power lust and hatred and all that stuff that he slips up too. I mean, even though he's one of the most powerful wizards of all time, he also slips up.
He's the most powerful, maybe not the most wise at the same time.
Well, so, and then he and Dumbledore duel. So do you, after reading this book, who in your impression is the most powerful wizard in the world? Technically, nobody wins that duel.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But one of them flees, right? Technically, Voldemort runs.
Kind of runs, yeah.
I mean, Dumbledore and them have backup coming, but I mean, Voldemort doesn't kill Dumbledore. Dumbledore kind of beats him, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the most part. So that was good to see.
Right, yeah.
Sharing thing. Voldemort and, as I just said, Voldemort and Bellatrix leave. Just as Fudge shows up. The most Sirius Black dying was extremely difficult to take. That was a hard moment. I remember the first time my sister read this, when it first came out, she just was crying. This was a huge death. I think Sirius, up until this point, is considered an extremely popular character. I would even go as far as to say he's a lot of people's favorite character, and as he should be. He's an awesome character. He's Harry's last family. He's an extremely misunderstood individual. Harry's dad's best friend growing up, and then and the way he dies too is so fast, right? Bellatrix, who is related to him, hits him with the Avada Kedavra, hits him, and then he kind of drifts into that little
he falls into the veil,
freaking veil thing. No goodbyes. Harry kind of just watches him, and it's gone like in an instant. I mean, how did you take that death?
Yeah, it was heavy.
It was heavy.
Very unexpected. I did not think he was going to die. And it was very tough to see Harry go through that immediate, like, the stage of grief, like, immediate just denial. He's like, no, he's right there. Like, I just saw him. He's right there. It's coming back. And they're like, no, he's not. It's so tough. And Harry gets a lot of shit in this book for kind of having an attitude a lot and being emotional and snapping on everybody. But, like, I was on Harry's side 100% because, like,
how could you not have look what is going on in this dude's life.
Yeah.
I think he's more in control than he needs to be.
Everyone's trying to keep him out, like not let him in the circle, like the order, or the parents or don't want to say anything. And he's like, I'm the reason this is all happening. I should be like this. I should be involved in every conversation. Like, this is pissing me off. Like, I saved everyone and I just loved it. I loved it. I didn't think he was like whining or anything. Like, he deserves to be mad.
Yeah, and then who is always there in defense?
It's Sirius. So then
it's Sirius.
He loses yet another massive part of his life.
Few of the only family that he has left is gone in an instant. Awful, absolutely awful. One of the toughest deaths. That's a huge.
He ends up grieving like 2 more times before this book ends.
Oh my God! It's
damn,
so
sad. Like,
it's so sad.
Hammering it on. Like,
I would go even further to say that the Sirius death is one of the harder deaths in like all of fiction. Yeah. Not the hardest, but it's got to be up there. It's got to be in the discussion. This book ends with an interesting take from Dumbledore. Dumbledore's talking to Harry. He explains to Harry that pretty much the best thing Harry has going for him against Voldemort is love, the love of his family, the love of his parents, especially his mom. Lily Potter giving her life up for Harry is pretty much the whole reason that saved him. Harry is full of love and friendship, and Voldemort has neither of those things. And I love how that is pretty much considered more powerful than even magic in this context, as JK explains, which is a beautiful symbolism, right?
Mm-hmm.
The prophecy also has some things mixed into it that Dumbledore explains. As long as Harry spends his summer with the Dursleys, as long as he's with family, with blood, as long as Harry's Aunt Petunia, Lily's sister, welcomes Harry in, then Harry has this kind of unseen safety surrounding him. And it all goes back into this overall powerful form of love. So Harry again has to return to his aunt and uncles at the Dursleys' house for yet another summer.
And I liked that. I liked that part because it looped around to the early chapters again when like Aunt Petunia knows that she knows that she has a duty, and when Uncle Vernon is trying to kick her out or kick Harry out, she's like, she gets a letter to her, which is like never happened before.
Right.
And she's like, no, like he has to stay.
It's the first form of like sympathy.
Yeah.
That you see from the Dursleys.
And like connection from Mrs. Dursley to the Wizarding World. Like
it doesn't, I don't think it makes up for the horrible way they have treated him over the years, but it does give you a little bit, like they are, at least Petunia is, they're playing a more significant role in this whole thing than anybody's really given them credit for. So that is the book in the nutshell, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. So a couple of things I want to talk about. As I said earlier, there's a couple new forms of magic. Grimmauld Place we talked about. Creature we talked about. Umbridge's Detention we talked about. This is a cool thing that happens in this book. The whole theme of like a new war is coming, right? Like the second war is coming, which is... you find out that Hagrid's recruiting giants to join the Order of the Phoenix, and he mentions that the Death Eaters are also recruiting giants, which is a pretty mind-blowing thing to think about. So both sides are recruiting as many people and as many different people, types of people as they can to kind of join their army. So the war is becoming more than just like a Harry versus Voldemort thing. It's like the whole world is going to be involved in this, which is setting a pretty incredibly big tone. Thestrals. There is a overwhelming theme of death in this book. The Thestrals are one, the horses that always pull the carriages from the train to the school, you find out are being pulled by these creatures that are pretty much like winged horse that can only be seen by people with death, who have seen death. Talk to me a little bit about Luna Lovegood, because she plays an interesting role in this whole story.
I honestly like Luna Lovegood.
Yeah, she's weird, but how could you not like her?
She's weird, but she's also like she comes off obviously as like this girl batshit crazy. But then like the more she's says stuff and talks and gets involved, she's definitely all there. Like she knows what's going on. She is experienced.
And she has Harry's back. Her and her dad, the whole Quibbler, right?
She's on the good side. She's behaving well.
Supporting Dumbledore, right?
And like Harry, when he thinks he's losing his mind, oh my god, I'm seeing shit again. There's a demon horse right in front of me, and then Lovegood says the iconic line of, don't worry, I can see them too. You're just as sane as I am." I love that line.
Which is really funny because is he because she's crazy, so how sane is he if he's as insane? But yeah, they have a nice little connection throughout the whole book, which is really nice. So what are you looking forward to coming up? We have Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is the next one, book 6. What are your hopes for that?
Well,
you've nailed most. I think last time you wanted to learn a little bit more about Snape. I don't think you do a whole lot in this book.
Well,
yeah,
no, you
what are some
do.
things you're looking for?
The thing you did about Snape in this book, which was kind of wild, is when Harry goes into his
Oh, he jumps into
pensieve,
his mind.
his memories, his pensieve, and sees that James Potter, his father, was like a serious bully and not a very good person.
Severus.
Him and Sirius were kind of torturing Severus, and that was definitely eye opening. You know, Harry always like dreams about his father. Like, oh, I wish I could be like him. He was
Yeah,
so
being
awesome.
this perfect. Everybody loved him, super popular.
Yeah, but he kind of learns the dark truth, and he now kind of sympathizes with Harry. Or I mean, with Severus, Snape. But at the same time, he's like, well, now I kind of see why you're such an asshole to me. Like, are you taking out your old family grudges? So we did learn a
Yeah.
lot about Snape. So
They have a cool little connection in this book that's different than them just kind of hating each other.
right.
For sure.
But anyway, back to Half-Blood Prince. Like you said about the Second War coming, I'm excited to see like these growing armies on both sides. I mean, in this book, it kind of came off as the Death Eaters have a few people. I mean, like in the Goblet of Fire, the scene where Harry is surrounded by them, they seem like they were very present and massive. But then in this book, they kind of seem shrunken. Like only a few go to the prophecy. There's not a lot.
You can see that a little bit on both sides, right? Neither side has a huge army right now. It's more like you just said. It's kind of developing.
Mm-hmm. But I like that it's almost like real world warfare where like there's a lot of head-to-head stuff going on, but also there's a lot of secrecy, and we got to be quiet because if they know what we're doing, we're screwed.
Secrets, double agents, hideouts.
Yeah, it's very
secret missions,
very modern warfare kind of stuff going on, and that's super cool. So I'm excited to see the armies develop. I'm really excited to see the kids hopefully continue this DA action we were doing. Basically just hone in on their stuff because they know they definitely know now from the prophecy there's an inevitable battle coming, so they need to like step up because they've seen firsthand how dangerous the Death Eaters are.
Yeah, and you
I'm
get
excited to see who the next Defense Against Dark-Arts teacher is.
Right, there will be a new teacher, and it's great. The book ends. Dumbledore's back. Everybody, okay, Dumbledore, you weren't lying this whole time. Harry, you weren't crazy. Fudge now sees. So you assume there's going to be a shift in the ministry towards a good side, which has to be a good thing. Mm-hmm. Before we end, hit me with how many broomsticks do you give this one?
Oh, dude. Hard 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. So this was your favorite book so far?
Book so far, yes.
That's fair. I mean, a lot happens. There's a lot of action. This was good. This was probably, I would say, our best discussion back and forth that we've had so far.
Yeah.
I appreciate your energy.
This is the first, and you can put this in there too. Like this, the reason I love this book so much is because I had zero clue what was happening. Like I didn't know what was coming.
Just you wait.
It's the first one.
Just you wait. Well, here's to being in the dark.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good segue because we're gonna blow our candles out and we're gonna be in the dark. Nice. All right, J Trappe. Harry Potter, the Order of the Phoenix. Next up, Half-Blood Prince. Yes, excited for you to get into that. I know you already started it, but I'm excited for you to take that journey as well. So, as always, thank you. Oh, shit. All right, man. Take it easy.